Chapter 206, Counterattack. Fujin hadn't been with this group for long. Even though he didn't like to lose a teammate here, his focus was still on escaping. His mind was rapidly calculating ways to escape from his horrible situation. However, the other three had been with Tadashi for years. Their eyes grew red in rage. Tomatsu yelled while weaving hand signs, "Since you want to kill us, I'll take as many of you with me as I can." Fire release, burning ash. He spewed a stream of chakra-infused ash from his mouth. It spread in all directions but had a small space at the center where the four Konoha ninjas stood. The Kyumo ninjas tried approaching but moved away immediately on seeing the flammable ash spreading in the area. A few launched lightning and water jutsus into it. However, in the next second, Tomatsu lit a fire in the ash and the entire smoke screen blew up. The explosion cancelled out every jutsu aimed at them. Two Kyumo ninjas were just outside the range of the explosion. They were hit with stones and sticks, causing some injuries. The Kyumo ninjas were preparing for another round of attack when suddenly, the fire caused by the explosion increased threefold in size and intensity and began spreading out at a rapid speed. Fujin had released an infinite breakthrough jutsu in all directions, causing the fire to spread rapidly. The Kyumo ninjas weren't expecting that. All 20 ninjas were too close to perform any jutsu or run away. They were hit by the fire. The ones who were hiding in the forest quickly retreated or used defensive jutsus. Kyumigakuer advisor Hari, who was hidden in the forest, muttered, "They have a strong wind user. Be careful of him." The three who were with him nodded. They didn't expect the Konoha ninjas to hit back so fiercely. At the center, where there was no fire, Tomatsu said, "We will use the chaos caused by this fire to escape." Ryota opposed, "But Tadashi." Tomatsu cut him off. "Tadashi wouldn't want us to follow him so soon. We will live and take our revenge another day. Hokage-sama will surely create a unit to take back the mine." Ryota unwillingly nodded. Fujin said, "It won't be easy. There are at least 30 more ninjas out there. And I can feel that a few more are hiding in my chakra field." Tomatsu said, "We will give them another fire-wind combination jutsu. Hopefully, that will deter them." Fujin nodded. He thought, "I hope that will work. Unfortunately, I have a bad feeling about this. Some of the chakras I sensed are much stronger than any of us." Screams of pain could be heard as the fire burned their flesh. 8 Kyumo ninjas couldn't endure and collapsed. They would soon be cooked inside out and meet their death. The other 12 quickly escaped from the fire and began dousing the fire burning them. Though they survived and weren't fatally injured, they wouldn't be able to fight properly anymore. They were in terrible pain from having their flesh burnt. Many of their delicate organs like eyes and ears were damaged as well. The other Kyumo ninjas were disturbed by seeing this sight. The situation changed too abruptly. 1 second they had a complete advantage, while in the next second their whole 20-man unit was defeated. Finding the exact moment, Tomatsu said, "Now." All 4 flickered instantly. They were planning to use this chaos to escape. Once they managed to get out of the encirclement, the Kyumo ninjas wouldn't want to chase them through the lands of another country. Unfortunately, Kyumo had plenty of sensors among their numbers. As soon as the Konoha ninjas left, one sensor shouted, "They are coming here." The sensors among other groups sensed them as well and began moving towards them. Though there were 30 ninjas in the second perimeter, They were spread in all directions to ensure that the Konoha ninjas couldn't escape. The place where the Konoha ninjas were headed only had 6 Kyumo ninjas. The leader of that 6 ninja squad noticed them approaching. He calculated, we only have to stall them for a few seconds. Then others will catch up and they will be in a helpless situation once again. The Konoha ninjas also knew about it. Tomatsu weaved hand signs rapidly. Fujin noticed his hand signs and timed his jutsu perfectly. Fire release, fire wave jutsu. Wind release, infinite breakthrough jutsu. The jutsus combined. Extremely hot air moved rapidly towards the Kyumo ninjas. 2 ninjas stepped forward while waving hand signs. Water release, water wall jutsu. Earth release, earth wall jutsu. 2 walls appeared in front of them. The fire-wind combination jutsu easily broke through the water wall. Evaporated water formed a smoke screen in the area. However, the earth wall stood firm. The jutsu hit it and began moving around the earth wall. Though the Kyumo ninjas were barely safe behind it, they were trapped as the forest around them was burning. The Konoha ninjas didn't mind the result. They avoided the fire and escaped in a different direction. Unfortunately, the Kyumo ninjas didn't allow them to escape so easily. 4 ropes made of lightning suddenly appeared through the fire they had caused. They moved at a rapid speed and didn't allow Konoha ninjas to use any jutsus. They had to split up to dodge. Unfortunately, the lightning ropes also changed directions to chase them. Fujin noticed the rope coming towards him. Chakra flowed through his sword as he slashed at it. The wind element chakra flowing along his sword easily neutralized the jutsu. However, he quickly turned around and looked behind. 2 jets of water were heading at him. Katsumi once again sacrificed some of his bugs once again to stop the lightning whip. Ryota slammed his hands on the ground. A small rock shield appeared in front of him. The lightning rope hit the shield. However, instead of piercing through or damaging the shield, the lightning was directed into the ground. Lastly, Tomatsu just kept hiding behind trees until the lightning rope ran out of power. The group wanted to run away once again. Unfortunately, the remaining Kyumo ninjas had begun to catch up. Ryota was about to move towards Tomatsu. However, 2 hands appeared from the ground and grabbed his legs. He looked down as the Kyumo ninja said, "Got you." He began dragging Ryota underground. Ryota quickly made a hand sign and touched the ground. The ground suddenly became harder, trapping the Kyumo ninja underground. Soon, spears began forming underground. A few pierced into his body. The Kyumo ninja was horrified. At that instant, a lightning spear flew towards Ryota. Ryota's attention was drawn towards it. However, it was too late for him to move. Fortunately, a shield of bugs appeared in front of him to block the lightning spear. However, the lightning spear changed direction and hit the ground. Ryota's earth jutsu was dispelled and the ground softened. The Kyumo ninja, who was under the ground, quickly escaped. Katsumi and Ryota looked at the attacker, who was a woman. She was tall, fair-skinned with a curvaceous figure and had a stoic, aloof expression on her face. She has blue eyes and straight, shoulder-length blonde hair cut in an asymmetrical bob style. At the same time, Fujin and Tomatsu were attacked as well. Right after Tomatsu neutralized the lightning whip, he heard a voice behind him, "You are very good." Tomatsu quickly turned around. However, an intense light was emitted at him, blinding his eyes. Tomatsu closed his eyes and grabbed a kunai. However, instead of fighting, he flickered away. Unfortunately, his opponent was faster than him. See flickered as well and launched lightning at Tomatsu. Due to having his eyes blinded, Tomatsu couldn't observe the jutsu properly. The lightning hit his body, causing him immense pain. He barely managed to open his eyes to see another attack heading towards him. At the last moment, he snapped out of the lightning shocks and dodged C's attack. He wanted to counter-attack, however, 5 more Kumo ninjas appeared and surrounded him. He fell into a desperate struggle. Fujin too was attacked at the same time. When he dodged the lightning whip, he was the closest to the fire they had set up. 2 jets of water were heading straight at him. Fujin created and fired 2 vacuum bullets. Both hit the water jets and pierced through them. Fujin sensed, they are trying to break out of the fire and join the fight. He opened his mouth and exhaled strong winds at the fire in front of him. The fire was instantly magnified and became chaotic. The Kumo ninjas who were planning to break through were scared by the sight. Immediately an earth dome formed around them to protect them from the firestorm. Fujin was planning to take this opportunity to run away. Unfortunately, another attack was headed towards him. He turned his head to the right. His eyes widened as he saw a python made of black lightning heading towards him. He immediately flickered while cursing, "Motherfucking Darui." Chapter 207, Fighting with his full power. Right when Fujin flickered, the black lightning python also changed direction and chased after Fujin. Unfortunately, it was much faster than Fujin. Fujin thought, running would be pointless. He concentrated chakra into his left palm and quickly charged it with wind chakra. He stopped moving and raised his left palm. The black lightning python quickly reached him and hit his palm. Fujin was pushed behind along the ground, but the chakra on his hand stopped most of the jutsu. However, some lightning still hit his palm and electrocuted him. Fortunately, Fujin had already trained in the lightning element. He could endure those shocks without affecting his ability to fight. Darui was surprised by Fujin's action. He thought, "This kid is impressive. We didn't plan on participating in this fight." Unfortunately, they killed 8 and injured 12 more ninjas. Boss will be very pissed at us if we let any more die. After a few seconds, the lightning python ran out of chakra and lightning and collapsed. Fujin clenched his fist to crush the lightning python in his palm. At that instant, 2 more Kumo ninjas arrived around Fujin. Fujin could sense a dozen more getting close. One of the 2 ninjas appeared in front of Fujin. He swung his sword vertically, wanting to hack Fujin into 2. The other ninja appeared behind Fujin, on his right side, and attacked Fujin with the sword as well. Fujin immediately punched the sword in front of him with his left fist. The chakra he had concentrated in his palm to block the lightning python still existed. And due to being zapped, his fist was charged with Darui's black lightning. At the same time, he swung the sword in his right hand to clash with the enemy's sword. Both Kumo ninjas timed their attacks perfectly. They clashed with Fujin at the same time. Fujin's left fist hit the sword's edge. The Kumo ninja grinned, expecting Fujin's fist to be split open. However, his eyes widened as he heard a cracking noise. His steel sword had cracked. In front of his eyes, he saw his sword being broken into pieces. Fujin's fist continued moving forward and punched the ninja in his stomach. The ninja's eyes popped out as he felt the full impact of a chakra and lightning-enhanced punch. The punch wrecked his internal organs and sent him flying. He spat out a lot of blood as he flew backwards and lost consciousness. At the same time, when Fujin's fist met the sword, his sword clashed with the enemy's sword behind him. Fujin's sword cut through the enemy's sword like a hot knife cuts through butter. At the same time that Fujin punched the enemy in front of him, his sword cut the enemy behind him in two. A frown formed on Darui's face as he saw another one of his subordinates die. He was waving hand signs when Fujin countered his opponents. Lightning release, Black Panther. He released black lightning in the form of a panther which reached Fujin almost instantly. Fujin had sensed Darui building up his chakra. He saw the Black Panther rush towards him. Having experienced the Black Python, Fujin didn't bother dodging. Instead, he gathered chakra in his mouth and throat. Right when the Black Panther was only a few meters away from him, Fujin opened his mouth and launched his strongest jutsu. Wind release, Vacuum Cannon Jutsu. The vacuum cannon hit the Black Panther head-on. Darui's eyes widened as he saw his jutsu being pierced through with utmost ease. The Black Panther began dissipating. Though some of it still continued towards Fujin, he dodged easily. Darui immediately moved out of the way while observing the jutsu. The vacuum cannon reached his position and continued forward, destroying every tree in its path. Darui instantly recognized, Wind Vacuum Technique. Someone other than Danzo learned this technique in Konoha. And it's a strong jutsu as well. No wonder my jutsu was overpowered so easily. 6 ninjas were running towards Fujin and planning to attack him together. However, they saw the trail of destruction Fujin's jutsu left in its path and were left tongue-tied by it. They immediately stopped approaching Fujin and looked at Darui for instructions. They didn't want to be at the receiving end of such a jutsu. Darui became very serious. He said, "Leave him to me." He grabbed his giant sword and moved towards Fujin. Fujin moved as well, such that Darui and the other Kyumo ninjas were in a straight line. Wind release, Air Bullet Jutsu. He fired a dozen air bullets at Darui. Darui dodged them with ease and attacked Fujin with his sword. Lightning could be seen flowing along his sword. Fujin attacked back with his sword. The metal swords produce a loud sound. At the same time, the Kyumo ninjas who were behind Darui were caught off guard. They saw a dozen air bullets heading their way and scurried out of the way. However, some were still hit. Many of them had small cuts due to the bullets. The unluckiest one had a hole in his right arm. Fujin and Darui both flowed chakra through their swords. However, Fujin was surprised. He expected to have an advantage due to the wind element. However, Darui had poured a lot more chakra into his sword as compared to Fujin. So his sword stayed intact. He applied force. Though Fujin's physique was very good, Darui was much stronger than him. He was pushed back. His face became grim on realizing how outmatched he was. In an instant, a vacuum bullet formed in his mouth and was launched at Darui. Darui noticed it and immediately got out of the way and attacked Fujin once again with his sword. Fujin defended himself but was getting overpowered. He frowned, "His chakra and strength are both stronger than mine. I can't engage him in head-on combat. I have to resort to short clashes and hope that one of my bullets injure him." Fujin used the force of Darui's sword to move away from him. Darui attacked even more aggressively. However, instead of countering him with his strength, Fujin began parrying his attacks and using air and vacuum bullets to attack Darui. Darui dodged them all, but Fujin had 2 goals with his attacks. He would not only aim the bullets at Darui but would also send a few towards the Kyumo ninjas watching the fight. One of the Kyumo ninjas began cursing, "Damn kid. He is aiming to injure us all." Another said, "We should move away. He is trying to distract Darui. We will be sinners if Darui gets wounded because of us. We will disperse in different directions and surround him from a distance so that he won't be able to escape." Everyone nodded and dispersed. Darui relaxed when he saw his allies leave. He looked at Fujin and analyzed while fighting, this kid is good. Though he is weaker than me, a single mistake could cost me my life. Darui continued attacking with his sword, but he also began using lightning jutsu. Fujin dodged or countered his jutsus with wind jutsus and both entered into a fierce fight. The other Kyumo ninjas kept an eye on the battle from a distance. While Fujin was engaged in a fierce clash, Ryota and Katsumi were dominated by Samui. Even together, they weren't a match for her. To make matters worse, other Kyumo ninjas joined the fight. Ryota and Katsumi's faces became grim. Katsumi struggled to make a decision as he fought. In a minute, both he and Ryota had numerous injuries on their bodies. He sighed and said, Ryota, escape. Ryota was stunned, what do you mean? Katsumi said, your earth jutsus aren't of much help. I'll buy time by stalling them with my bugs and join you later. Ryota knew that there was no way for Katsumi to return alive. He wanted to argue, however, the Kyumo ninjas pressed on the attack once more. Tens of thousands of bugs appeared from Katsumi's body. He shouted, leave. The bugs immediately went on the attack. Ryota unwillingly decided to make a run. Knowing what fate awaited Katsumi, he didn't dare to look back. Unfortunately, while he was running, he was suddenly attacked by shurikens. He dodged immediately. Two Kyumo ninjas appeared and attacked him. Ryota moved back and slammed his hands on the ground. A bunch of spears appeared from the ground and attacked the Kyumo ninjas. However, the two ninjas used lightning jutsus to counter his move. The three entered into a fierce fight with Ryota trying his best to escape. Samui looked at the bugs and said, they may be poisonous. Don't let them bite you. Hit him with fire and lightning jutsus. The Kyumo ninjas around her nodded and attacked from a distance. Katsumi tried his best. He used all sorts of bugs. Some were resistant to lightning, some were incredibly poisonous. He defended himself with defensive bugs while trying to use the poisonous bugs to bite the Kyumo ninjas. However, the Kyumo ninjas didn't let a single bug bite them. They bombarded Katsumi with lightning and fire jutsus along with explosive tags. Katsumi's bugs began dying by the thousands. In a couple of minutes, most of his bugs died. Katsumi watched with a grim and sad face. Like Kenta was a partner for Tadashi, his bugs were a partner for him. He sighed, I tried a lot to escape. Unfortunately, there is no way out. I am completely surrounded. It looks like I'll be joining you soon, Tadashi. A few seconds later, a flash of lightning appeared in Katsumi's eyes. Samui appeared in front of him and cut his head off with one swing of her blade. Katsumi became the second Konoha ninja to die here. However, despite his death, his bugs still kept attacking. Samui instructed, deal with the bugs. I'll help the others. She left and moved towards Ryota. Ryota was still fighting the two Kyumo ninjas. He had managed to escape a couple of times, but they caught up to him again. During the fight, one of the Kyumo ninjas landed a kick on Ryota's abdomen and sent him rolling. Ryota immediately got on his feet, however, he felt someone was behind him. He quickly turned around and was shocked to see Samui. His throat dried up. His hands began shaking. He asked in a trembling voice, where is Katsumi? Samui replied in just one word, dead. Ryota's mind was in disbelief and rage. However, before he could do anything he felt pain in his abdomen. He looked down to see a sword piercing out of his abdomen. One of the two ninjas he was fighting took the opportunity of his distraction and stabbed his sword into his back. Ryota heard a sadistic laugh as the ninja said, "Don't worry. All your friends and family will join you soon." Suddenly, rage appeared on Ryota's face. He didn't speak a single word and just made the confrontation hand sign. Samui's eyes widened. She jumped back immediately while shouting, "Move away from him." Chapter 208, Crazy Suicide Bombers. The Kumo ninjas were confused. In the next moment, Ryota's body exploded. The ninja who had stabbed his back didn't have any time to move. His body took the entire brunt of the explosion. The other Kumo ninja was a bit far away. He moved a bit but he too was caught in the explosion. When the dust settled, Samui saw a very gore picture. Ryota's body was blown into pieces. The ninja that stabbed him had no flesh on the front side of his body. His face, chest, abdomen, and other parts were completely exposed. He fell down dead. The last Kumo ninja was crying in pain. His body was on fire. Samui immediately doused the fire and began helping him. At the same time, she was shocked at how decisive Ryota was. Ryota knew that despite Katsumi buying him some time, escape would be very difficult. He recalled Fujin saying that there were more than 30 ninjas still encircling them. And all of them were at least as strong as Ryota himself was. So in the time between him leaving Katsumi behind and the two Kumo ninjas attacking him, Ryota had stuck 20 explosive tags on various parts of his body and on the inside part of his clothes. When he saw Samui, he knew that his death was inevitable. So he decided to die in a way that would hurt his killers the most. If he knew that his last move killed a Chunin from Kumo and ended the career of another Kumo Chunin, he'd probably smile. As Samui applied some first aid to the injured ninja, her face was very grim. She thought, "We had planned to kill the Konoha squad while taking no casualties. At most, we concluded that some might take a few minor injuries. However, 8 of our ninjas died in the initial counter-attack while 12 got injured. Now one more is dead and another is critically injured. I hope that the remaining 2 Konoha ninjas don't manage to kill anyone." Soon, another Kumo ninja arrived on the spot. He was shocked to see the gore. Before he could say anything, Samui instructed, "Apply first aid to him. I'll send a medical ninja over here to help you." The ninja nodded and got to work. Samui left to ensure that the remaining 2 Konoha ninjas don't mess up anything. Fujin and Darui were still in a fierce fight. Darui was much stronger than Fujin, however, Fujin had managed to fight back without getting injured. In fact, he had made more killer attacks during their fight than Darui. As he fought while multitasking, a smile appeared on his face. Fujin had never been a fan of taking risks. He always chose the easy way out and won his battles efficiently. So he had never experienced such a battle. A battle where one wrong move would end his life. Where one misstep could maim him. Between the second and the third phases of the Chunin exam, Renjiro tried to simulate such an experience for Fujin. However, Fujin always knew that his life wasn't in danger against Renjiro. So he viewed it more as a pain in the ass rather than experiencing any thrill. However, in this deadly fight, all his senses worked beyond what Fujin had ever experienced. Every single move he made was flawless. The battle made his blood boil in excitement. His movements kept improving as the fight moved on. Fujin felt that he was getting faster and faster. However, it was just his body moving more efficiently. Fujin was surprised. "I expected to hate the situation I am in. I never expected that I would instead find it enjoyable." Darui was surprised when he saw the smile on Fujin's face. He had seen such a smile very few times in his life. He sighed in his mind, another battle freak. Great. The smile reminded Darui of a few people who he had seen in his life who loved to fight without caring about anything else. Instead of fear, they would fight like a maniac. One of those few people was the current leader of Kyomagakure. Despite being weaker in strength, Fujin managed to hold on against Darui without getting a single injury. However, though he had a smile on his face, he didn't lose himself in the battle. He analyzed, my chakra reserves are almost empty. I only have a little more than a quarter. I won't last much longer in such an intense battle. Unfortunately, despite performing well, Fujin never found any opportunity to escape from Darui. Fujin's chakra field was active as he analyzed, I need to find a way to get rid of the ninjas watching the fight. If I try to escape, they will attack and I'll be pincered between Darui and whoever attacks. It'll only result in me dying faster. Just like Fujin, Tomatsu was also engaged in fierce fighting. He was completely outmatched by his enemies as well. However, while Fujin managed to ensure that he didn't get injured and kept the other Kyomo ninjas at bay, Tomatsu was ganged up on by 7 Kyomagakure ninjas in addition to C. Injuries piled on his body. He had lost his left eye. His right arm was completely burned from intense lightning shocks. Over 100 small cuts were visible on his body. He was pretty much on his last legs. Tomatsu looked at the Kyomo ninjas and realized, this is the end for me. But, if I am going to die, I'll take at least a few of them with me. He began making hand signs. However, at the next moment, a kick landed on his abdomen. He was sent flying away. He flipped in the air and managed to land on his feet. The kick disrupted his hand signs. However, he landed a few meters away from every Kyomo ninja. Realizing the opportunity, he immediately flickered away. The Kyomo ninjas followed him in a hurry. And a chase began. Unfortunately for Tomatsu, he was very exhausted and injured. His speed was much lesser as compared to Kyomo ninjas. C took out a giant shuriken and threw it at Tomatsu. Due to his tiredness, Tomatsu didn't notice it. He stepped on a branch and jumped aiming to get away. Just when he jumped, the shuriken hit his left thigh and cut clean through it. Tomatsu felt the pain and looked down at his left leg in horror. He lost his footing and crashed down. As he fell down, he saw Fujin and Darui fighting in front of his eyes. Both Fujin and Darui also saw him and were surprised. They stopped fighting for a moment. Fujin immediately flickered and appeared next to Tomatsu. Unfortunately, he had already lost consciousness. Soon, C and the Kyomo ninjas with him also arrived. Samui as well appeared next to Darui at this moment. The Kyomo ninjas were surprised to see that Fujin was unharmed. Fujin's expression became grim. His already bad situation had taken a turn for the worse. He thought, shit. Darui was already out of my league. And I am sure that C and Samui are both stronger than me. Not to mention the 15 others that are along with these 3. Now, what the fuck should I do? Fujin's brain calculated all possible options at the speed of light. Fortunately for him, Kyomo ninjas didn't attack him right away. C asked Darui, how is he still alive? Darui shrugged and said, the kid is strong. I couldn't injure him. The Kyomo ninjas who just arrived were surprised. Darui was very reputed in the land of lightning. The fact that a kid much younger than him could last so long was shocking. C observed Fujin who was crouching down next to Tomatsu while observing all the Kyomo ninjas. C shook his head and said, the kid has almost exhausted his chakra. Let's fini. However, Darui interrupted by asking, what is your name? Fujin looked at him but didn't answer. Darui didn't mind that and continued, you have exhausted most of your chakra. Though you are still unharmed, if you fight, your death is the only possibility. Surrender now. In the future, your Hokage could make a deal with the Raikage to get you back. Fujin didn't reply. He thought, though his words are honest, becoming a prisoner would be the stupidest move. I'll have no control if Kyomagakure decides to torture, maim, or kill me. Not to mention, hoping for Hiruzen to rescue me would be beyond stupid. That old fox might show that he is a very emotional person, but there are layers of deception hidden under his thick skin. Seeing that Fujin didn't respond, C said, since you don't want to surrender, you'll have to. However, as he spoke, Fujin's frown disappeared. Instead, a smirk appeared on Fujin's face. Soon, that smirk turned into a wide grin. The Kyomagakure ninjas were surprised. One of them asked, did he lose his mind? For the first time, Fujin spoke, you know, I was always very afraid of risking my life. I always decided to take the easier way out and do my job efficiently. However, fighting you has made me experience a thrill that I never imagined. Darui, though you may not have heard of me, I have heard of you. Doesn't the Raikage think of you as his second right hand? Fujin's grin grew wider. It grew so wide that it looked as though his face might split into two. His grin creeped out some of the Kyomo ninjas surrounding him. Fujin continued, though I will die, taking down 18 Kyomagakure ninjas including the Raikage's right hand with me would make me a hero in Konoha. Ha 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 ha. Samui's eyes widened on hearing that. She had already seen a crazy Konoha ninja. However, before she could act, the seals on Fujin's bracers lit in the blink of an eye. 400 explosive tags appeared around Fujin and formed a sphere around him. They completely blocked Fujin from the line of sight of the Kyomagakure ninjas. However, they could still hear Fujin's laughter. The Kyomagakure ninjas immediately became grim. They decided to move away. However, even before they could move, a breeze flew from inside the sphere made of explosive tags. The winds made the explosive paper tags spread throughout the area. Kyomo ninjas were horrified to see hundreds of explosive tags heading towards them. Chapter 209, Schemes and Hidden Dangers. The Kyomo ninjas were horrified at the sight of hundreds of explosive tags coming at them. Many Kyomo ninjas began running away. A few escaped underground. Darui, C, Samui, and another Jounin had grim faces. They immediately made hand signs and cast a lightning net in front of them. A few explosive tags hit the lightning net and were disabled. However, soon the explosive tags began exploding just before touching the lightning net. The lightning net was damaged by the explosion. The Kyomo Jounins increased the amount of chakra they poured into the lightning net to repair it and make it hold on. However, the number of explosive tags was too high. The lightning net was soon ripped apart. The Kyomo ninjas immediately escaped into the ground. As soon as they did, the explosions covered the entire place. A loud sound could be heard for miles around the spot where the explosion occurred. Trees, branches, and stones were sent flying by the explosion. A smoke screen of dust, soil, and smoke spread for hundreds of meters. A massive fire lit up and spread through the forest at a rapid speed. The smoke raised due to the forest fire could be seen from all the nearby villages. After a couple of minutes of the explosion, a head popped out of the ground. It was Darui. Soon, C, Samui and the other Jounin appeared out of the ground. All their faces had been covered in dust. Soon, 8 more Kyumo ninjas also crawled out of the ground or ran back towards where Darui was. C couldn't help but mutter, "What a crazy guy. Who carries so many explosive tags with them?" The other Kyumo ninjas were cursing Fujin too. Darui looked at C and said, "Sense the position of others." C nodded and began sensing. He led the other Kyumo ninjas to where the missing Kyumo ninjas were and began treating them one by one. Meanwhile, Darui and Samui began checking what happened to Fujin. Samui said, "I should have warned you." Another one of them killed himself the same way. Darui said, "It's not your fault. There was barely any time. Besides, considering the number of explosive tags he had, we can say that he always planned to die in this way." They arrived at the spot where Fujin and Tomatsu were before the explosion went off. They didn't find anything interesting at first. However, soon a shock appeared on their face. Samui said, "There is nothing here." Darui nodded, "Yeah, even though the explosions were powerful, at least their blood and bones should have remained here." Samui said, "This means that he escaped." "No, they escaped." Anger formed on Samui's face. Kyumo had taken a lot of casualties in this confrontation. By comparison, Konoha only lost 3 ninjas. Soon, a man arrived at their location along with 7 ninjas. He was Hari. He had watched the fight between Fujin and Darui but had to escape in a hurry when he saw the explosive tags. Hari asked, "Who was that lunatic brat?" Darui replied, "He never told his name." Hari asked, "Is he dead?" Darui said, "Most likely not. He was standing here before the explosives went off but there are no signs of blood or remains. He probably escaped just before the explosions went off." Hari frowned. He analyzed for a minute before saying, "When we saw those explosive tags, it attracted all our attention. He must have flickered right before the tags exploded. And he carried the other Konoha ninja with him." Samui said, "We need to hunt him. I'll form a squad and go after him." However, Hari shook his head and said, "No, it's already been around 5 minutes since the explosive tags exploded. He should have escaped a long distance." Samui countered, "His chakra was depleted and he is carrying an injured ninja with him." Hari replied, "It's fine. Though I didn't expect us to have such a heavy loss, the goal of this mission is to see what action Konoha takes after knowing that we took a mine that should have been under their control. I plan to leak the information later, but this is fine too. That youngster will report what happened here to the Hokage and do that task for me. For now, assist C in saving and healing all the injured ninjas." Darui and Samui nodded and began helping C. After a few hours, they healed all the injured ninjas and tallied their losses. In all, 14 ninjas died during the fighting, 3 were critically injured and wouldn't be able to continue being a ninja and 13 were lightly injured. All the dead and critically injured ninjas were of the Chunin rank. Hari sighed on knowing the losses as he realized, "My plan was to cause losses to Konoha and see their reaction to it. However, on the first step of my plan, we faced a setback. Now there will be voices of opposition in Kyumigakure on starting a war with Konoha. After all, just a small clash caused us so many losses. Everyone will be worried about how many losses we will suffer when we face the full might of Konoha. Still, Lord Raikage should be able to push forward for war if he wishes to." Far away from the Kyumo ninjas who were healing their wounds, Fujin was running across the land of hot springs. In his hand, he was holding Tomatsu. The wound on his left thigh was cauterized and bandaged while the other wounds were just bandaged so that blood won't fall from his wounds. A few hours ago, when Fujin was surrounded by 400 explosive tags, he exhaled a gentle wind that guided all the explosive tags towards the Kumo ninjas. At the same time, he created a wind clone to control the explosive tags and grabbed Tomatsu by the back of his neck and used wind instantaneous body jutsu to flicker a long distance away. He repeated the jutsu a few times to end up miles away from the spot of the explosion. He turned around to see the massive smoke rising into the skies from that spot as he thought, I have one spiked shield and one normal shield in my forearm bracers. In addition, I have put both my swords in there as well. But I couldn't come up with any good ideas on what to store in the remaining 4 seals. Luckily I filled them up with explosive tags just in case I needed them. I still have 200 more tags. If they chase after me, I'll use them to scare those Kumo ninjas off. But first, he took out a bottle and put a few soldier pills in his mouth. He made a hand sign and a shadow clone appeared next to him. He picked up Tomatsu and all 3 began escaping again. As they were running, the shadow clone burned the wound on his left leg so that the bleeding would stop. He also applied some bandages to his smaller wounds. Fujin ran, flickered, and used wind and earth instantaneous body jutsus for over an hour before taking a break. He was very exhausted. His clone bandaged Tomatsu properly and dispelled itself. Fujin looked at the unconscious Tomatsu as he thought, I had initially thought of escaping by myself. Carrying him is a big burden. But, the last time Kumo did a foul play, Hiruzen sacrificed Hisashi to avoid a war. If Kumo cried foul again and Hiruzen decided to compromise once more, I would have been the one to be sacrificed if I returned alone. A frown appeared on Fujin's face. During the escape, this thought troubled him a lot. He analyzed, the thought of going rogue has appeared in my mind several times in the last hour. But, though I am strong, without Konoha's resources and library, my future path will be highly restricted if I go rogue. Not to mention, I might be hunted by both Konoha and Kumo. And if by chance I survive and get stronger, Akatsuki might show up asking me to join them. Sigh, what a mess. His eyes wandered towards Tomatsu, he has lost his left leg. So his career as a ninja is pretty much over. If Hiruzen decides to sacrifice someone, sacrificing him would make much more sense than sacrificing a promising youngster. The only issue with this line of thought is that Tomatsu is from the Sarutobi clan. If Hiruzen has a soft spot for his clan and isn't willing to sacrifice them, my head will be on the chopping block. Fujin sat in meditation as he decided on his next actions. After a few minutes, he opened his eyes and decided, I will go back to Konoha. Despite losing the Uchiha clan, Konoha's strength should be stronger than 4 to 5 years ago. So it's unlikely that Hiruzen will take the same step. Even if he decides to compromise, he will first offer the chakra metal mine to Kumagakure. And that should be more precious than the head of any ninja. Also, I doubt Kumagakure would want the head of a young ninja over a chakra metal mine. However, if Hiruzen does decide to put up the same question in front of me as Hisashi, I'll act sad but determined and ask for some time and escape from Konoha during that time. Though it will be very risky, the alternative isn't risk-free either. Having rested, Fujin stood up and looked at the sky while thinking, Hiruzen, you better not disappoint me this time. He picked up Tomatsu and began his journey once more. He had figured that the Kumo ninjas weren't chasing him or were too slow. So he moved at a consistent speed to ensure that his body doesn't get tired once again. He moved for hours and finally sighed in relief as he stepped into the land of fire. Chapter 210, A Demand for Fujin's Head. It was a normal boring day for Yamanaka Hiruto. He had just finished patrolling and was wasting his time in the patrol camp while chatting with Hyagajun. However, he suddenly stopped and spread his chakra field. It spread for 500 meters but he couldn't sense anything. Hyuga-jun asked, "Did you sense something?" Yamanaka Hiruto replied, "I can't sense anyone. But someone just sensed our camp. Check with your Byakugan." Jun immediately activated his Byakugan. Hiruto asked, "Who is it?" A frown formed on Jun's face as he replied, "It's one of our ninjas. And he is carrying another who is very injured. He is around 1 kilometer to the east." Fujin had roughly memorized the locations of patrol camps from his previous missions. After arriving in the vicinity, he spread his chakra field to sense any ninjas in the vicinity. On sensing 7 ninjas in one place, Fujin flickered towards them. In a minute, he appeared before Hiruto and Jun. Hiruto quickly said, "Identify yourself." Fujin replied, "Suzuki Fujin. You can ask questions later. My teammate got very injured during the mission. Do you have a medic?" Jun nodded and said, "All right, follow me." He quickly led Fujin into the camp and knocked on a door. He said, "Emiko, we have a very injured person. Come quickly." Emiko immediately opened the door. She was the medical ninja in the camp. She was surprised when she saw Tomatsu's condition. She quickly laid him on a bed and began healing him. While Emiko treated Tomatsu, Jun and Hiruto interrogated Fujin. They were suspicious of Fujin because Fujin didn't have a single injury on him despite his teammate being so injured. He asked for Fujin's ID number and other standard questions to confirm that Fujin was indeed a ninja from Konoha. Finally, he asked, "Where is your remaining team?" Fujin put up a sad face and said, "They are all dead." Hiruto had expected such a result. He thought, "I guess that he is safe because of the sacrifices of his teammates." He sighed and patted Fujin's shoulder and said, "It's fine. Sometimes missions go wrong." Fujin nodded. Emiko took around 20 minutes to heal Tomatsu. She left her room and approached Fujin and asked, "Are you injured as well?" Fujin shook his head, "No, I am fine." Emiko nodded and left to keep an eye on Tomatsu. After an hour, Tomatsu gained consciousness. He quickly got up and sat up straight. However, his injuries made him grunt in pain. He looked around himself and was surprised that he was still alive. Emiko stopped him from moving much and quickly asked him how he was feeling. Tomatsu answered her questions. When he was done, he asked, "How did I get here? And where are my teammates?" The medical ninja sighed and said, "Your teammate Fujin brought you here. I'll call him." She left the room to call Fujin. However, she was impressed by Tomatsu. Despite losing his left leg, his first thought was the well-being of his team. Meanwhile, Tomatsu was surprised that Fujin was able to escape along with him. However, recalling Tadashi and imagining the fates of Ryota and Katsumi, tears began rolling down his cheeks. He quickly wiped them off thinking, "I shouldn't appear weak in front of Fujin. I'll have lots of time to grieve for them later." Soon, Fujin arrived in the room where Tomatsu was resting. He could see the wetness in Tomatsu's eyes due to the tears he was holding back. Tomatsu looked at Fujin and said, "I am glad that you are safe, Fujin." Fujin nodded and looked at his cut leg. He asked, "How are you?" Tomatsu saw his sight and said sorrowfully, "I'll be fine." After half a minute of silence, he asked, "Do you know what happened to Katsumi and Ryota?" Fujin shook his head and answered, "No. I didn't see either of them after we split up. I only saw you and managed to barely escape." Tomatsu was shivering on hearing Fujin's answer. With the last ray of hope, he asked, "You are a censor. Did you sense them? Fujin sighed and replied, no. I was attacked by a ninja called Darui. He was much stronger than me. We flickered many times during the fight and were a long distance away from where we were ambushed. So I couldn't sense them. Tomatsu sighed and stayed silent for a few minutes. No one spoke. Finally, the sorrowful expression disappeared from Tomatsu's face and instead, he looked determined. He asked, Fujin, how long have I been unconscious? Fujin was surprised to see the sudden change in attitude. He answered, around 10 hours. I reached this camp around an hour ago. Tomatsu looked at his leg and said, I'll be a burden if I come along with you. Fujin, run towards Konoha as fast as you can and inform Lord Hokage what happened. He looked at Fujin and said with determination, this is a very important mission for our village Fujin. I'll leave it in your hands. Fujin realized, I see. He wants revenge. That said, knowing Hiruzen, it's highly unlikely that he will choose violence. Unfortunately, those three won't ever get justice. Though I guess, we already had our revenge as at least 9 of them are dead. Fujin said, all right. I'll go quickly. You take care of yourself, Tomatsu. Tomatsu nodded and said, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Fujin could see that despite his determined expression, Tomatsu was having a hard time controlling his sorrow. He was holding back just to not demoralize Fujin. Fujin immediately left. A few minutes later, Tomatsu broke down in tears. Fujin rapidly moved across the land of fire. On the way, he couldn't help but sigh, poor guy was trying so hard to control his tears. I wonder how many such instances occur daily in this world. How many squads meet their end due to a mission going wrong. I kinda had it lucky so far. Unfortunately, it looks like my luck ran out today. I need better means to escape from such situations. This time I was lucky that Tomatsu crashed into my battlefield and Darui decided to not finish me off immediately and instead gave me the option to surrender. I didn't even have a chance to escape until then. I don't want to depend on luck next time as not everyone will be merciful like Darui. While moving, Fujin analyzed the options available to him. The first jutsu that came to his mind was obviously the Flying Thunder God. However, he rejected it. No, Hiruzen said that I'll have to be a grandmaster at Fuinjutsu before being allowed to learn it. Right now I could barely even be considered a master. Becoming grandmaster will require a lot more time. Not to mention, I'll need the Jounin rank to be able to access the seals kept in Section A of the library. Fujin analyzed more but couldn't think of any idea other than the one he had at the back of his mind. Fujin sighed, I guess that's the only available option. Unfortunately, even that is very risky. I still need some time to be ready for it. That said, if Hiruzen decides against my well-being, I should take that risk. It might allow me to escape from Konoha very easily. While Fujin was moving at full speed through the forests in the Land of Fire, a message was sent back to Kumagakure to the 4th Raikage. The coded scroll was decoded and the translated message was sent to A. A opened the scroll and began reading. Soon, anger appeared on his face. He raised his arm and smashed his table into 2 while yelling, "What the hell are these guys doing?" Mabi had seen A do such acts hundreds of times. She wasn't affected and calmly asked, "What happened, Lord Raikage?" A handed her the scroll and said in disappointment, "They ambushed 5 Konoha ninjas with 58 ninjas and still lost 13 ninjas and had many more injured. Not to mention, they still let 2 Konoha ninjas escape." Mabi was surprised by what A said. She wondered, which strong squad did they encounter to have such losses? She quickly checked the scroll to see who the Konoha ninjas were. She was surprised once again. She asked in confusion, "Who is Tomatsu?" A looked at her and said, "It's your job to tell me." She felt awkward hearing A's reply. She stopped reading the scroll, handed it back to A and quickly excused herself and checked their records. Mabi returned after a few minutes and said, "Tomatsu is an elite chunin in Konoha. He was promoted to the chunin rank after the Third Great Ninja War. But his record isn't stellar enough to produce such a result." A said, "It wasn't his doing." Hari said that a young ninja was able to hold his own against Darui and is an expert in wind manipulation. He was the main reason for the casualties. Find who this brat is, as they didn't know his identity. Find who this brat is, as they didn't know his identity. Mabi thought for a bit and said, "In the chunin exam that happened before the last one in Konoha, the champion was an orphan who specialized in wind manipulation. It was when the Kiri rebels had participated in the chunin exam. Other than him, I haven't heard of any young ninja who specializes in wind manipulation from Konoha." A thought for a bit and instructed, "Find his name and pass it to the negotiators. Send the negotiators that we have prepared to Konoha and ask for heads of Tomatsu and that brat. Also, send a message to Darui and call him, C and Samui back. And, don't let this news leak." Mabi nodded and left the office.